Okay, so as a way to kick off, I just want to begin by saying that we have what we typically refer to as leaders for good here. Each of them in their presentations have spoken about how it's important to work across sectors. Right, we notice a common theme that has come across is this idea that they care for something beyond themselves. It is not just about them and their career, it's not them and their profits of their organization, but it's really for this common cause. And that common cause, I believe, is often inspired by a source, right? By a story that is unique to them. And so I'm going to invite you by first inviting you to share a pivotal moment in your life that shaped the impact and the work that you're doing today. And Richard, I thought I would like to invite you to kick off, and then you can hand over the mic to the next speaker. Yeah. So, pivotal moment in your life that sparks the setup of what you're doing today.
For me, to summarize my life, it's all about opportunity. And there's one really pivotal moment in my childhood that I remember till today that really speaks volumes into what I want to do for the next generation youth. When I was a kid, I was actually growing up in the border before I left border of Thailand and Cambodia. And back then I was running around playing in the field, and then my mom was calling me back saying, "Look, don't go too far. Be careful of landmine." Right? And that was some kind of built in to my story into, okay, I can accept that, that's how it is. So the very first time I was in Toronto, we went camping, and I saw kids was just running around in the jungle, and I turned to my mom, I was like, are they not worried about landmine? In Toronto, of course, that sounds absurd, but the first time I actually went out camping and explored the forest a little bit out there, kind of gives me this shock moment of what us Cambodians for a long time accepted as the way of life, the way of living. And we were, if you live in the city, that's okay, but 20 years ago, if you live in the province, you were deprived of something so simple as the freedom to walk. And that was my idea of trying to give the youth the shock moment that I've had in Toronto, but here in Cambodia. And extending beyond that to allow the next generation youth to work to their imagination. That's why CJDM and Quantum is so important to me, is to give that opportunity that I was very lucky to have. And if we were able to pick all the youth here and spread them around the world, get them trained, come back to Cambodia, that would be even better. But we cannot do that. So we have to create that opportunity in town for them, so that they are not limited by their surrounding.
Beautiful, thank you. And with that, maybe to hear from Mel, a pivotal moment that shaped this city of good vision, right? This belief that we can all, as you said, one people, right? So what was that? A value or a moment in life that became a teaching point for you?
I'm gonna my overall mantra or belief in life is that your goal is to love God and to love your neighbor as yourself. It's really just simple. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. For me, that's just a fundamental belief. I grew up very privileged in some ways, but my mother would always tell me, just remember, you are not any better and you're not any worse than anybody else. She would always say that, you're not any better and you're not any worse than anybody else. And so it just always made me believe that not so much about hierarchy, but just about community, and connectedness was always very, very important. And when I was a kid, and this is strange, listen to your dreams, that kind of thing. When I was a kid, I had this really bizarre dream. And the dream was essentially that I was asked, do you want to be a cup or do you want to be a channel? And I thought, okay, well, if you're a cup, right, the purpose of the cup is to fill the cup, right? And then when it's filled, then you can't hold anymore, right? If you just keep pouring more into it, it just overflows, and that's also good too, it can overflow, but this is if you are a cup, this accumulation model, right? But what if you were a channel, right? Actually, you are only limited by the velocity with which whatever goes through it, right? And so just in this dream, it was, do you want to be a cup or do you want to be a channel? And both is fine, actually, but I remember at that time just feeling and having the sense that actually my call is to be the channel.
Thank you.
Yes, so to me, the things that make me remember, and again, I will start with the simple things and with the local spirit also. What I could remember is that because I'm not from the rich family, again, my mother's farmer, she's very old right now. And then the thing is that the financial freedom that drives me here. So I think the word financial freedom itself, it makes more sense. For example, like in the old generations of Cambodian people, Cambodian families, wife depends on husband, right? Okay, so that's also the thing that trigger me the financial freedom as a woman, right? And the financial freedom itself, it does not focus on just like husband and wife in the family, but it's also about like being a person that we should have financial freedom for ourselves, which should not be limited. For example, like, hey, if I want this, if I want that, or if I need to do this, need to do that, but I need to have a good financial spends with the good financial background. So again, it will be the financial freedom. And aside from that, I think the things that drive me here is that about sharings again. So what I'm thinking and bear in my mind is that if I have more knowledge, be ambitious to have as more knowledge, as more experience, as much as more knowledge and experience as possible, so that the more we have those things, the more we can share. So thanks.
Thank you. And similarly for Sri.
Thank you. Actually, there's one thing that's quite personal, and today I'm sharing about something personal. I would be as much as I can to share with the team, and I hope you can relate as well. So, when I was around 15 years old, the best friend of my sister passed away in a traffic accident. She's one of the greatest person that I inspired. So I love her, the way she behaves, it's nice to the rest of the people around her. But then that news shocked me as a person. So this is the fear that we all have, but it's unavoidable. It's death. I'm sorry to use this and to say this in the room, but this is something that wake me up as a person. Do I live forever? This is a question that I always ask myself. Do I live forever? And if I don't live forever, what do I want to leave behind as a person? So whatever touch that I do, so I'm trying to tell myself, I'm not a perfect, no one is perfect, but I'm trying all my best every day to create impacts around me, whatever I do. No matter where I go, I'll do that. So this is something that actually keep driving me now, that whatever I do, wherever I go, whoever I meet, I will just carry my authenticity and be with them, because I know the reality is we don't last forever. So that's something that I think
It's true. And it reminds me of, Sir Robert Greenleaf's quote, right? And we touched on this in our conscious leadership model as well. And he talks about this. Do we leave a system freer, wiser, healthier, and more autonomous? That means more free, right? Than when we first found it, right? And servant leadership is really not a choice. It is a responsibility that we all hold to leave a legacy behind a better Cambodia, a better world. And each of them have spoken about their passions about building a better Cambodian world. And last but not least, Wai Chong as well. What was the inner source from which you are operating, that pivotal moment?
Yeah, I think I'm the oldest among the group.
And the most wisest too.
Long journeys. Okay. Yep. So I've simple backgrounds, privileged in many ways, I suppose, to have a chance to study medicine, to become a doctor. The first graduate in my family, first doctor ever, I suppose. And then, of course, what's to complain about, right? Doctor is a noble profession. I practiced for around 8-9 years, and then suddenly it dawned on me, right? One day, I was looking after a polyclinic. Some of you in Singapore, you know polyclinics. In those days, we see 100 patients a day, every doctor. I was heading up the clinic at that time, and then I realized that my doctors were making mistakes. Okay, so sorry, we have good healthcare system, but my doctors were making mistakes. They were missing tumors, large liver tumors. I went through their notes and realized they were missing it. And because they were only spending 3 minutes per patient, and there was no time to really go into details, and some of them actually missed these. And then I suddenly realized, actually at that point in time, that the problems in healthcare are not because the doctors are bad, not because the patients didn't follow instructions, it's because of the system. And that started my whole journey about moving step by step higher and higher up the system to understand what can we do to support the healthcare system. And many things I shared about just now, really moving upstream, moving out of the system to see what else can we do besides what we do in hospitals. We can improve hospitals as much as we want, but if the system doesn't help, then the doctors can try their best and they still can't perform what they're supposed to do. And so that has always been defining, and I love the whole conscious leadership model, because only with that then you can actually understand, function, and effectively influence the system, and that's what has been a driving force.
Beautiful, thank you. And with that, now that they have shared their sources, any questions? Yes. So I'm going to invite you, there are 2 mic stands. We do have roaming mics as well, so you can go up to the mic stand, introduce yourself, and ask away any questions you might have for... Thank you. Can we give her a round of applause, please? Because it's always hardest to begin the conversation. So please introduce your name, where do you come from, and your question. And if you have a question directed at any one of the panelists, you can also let us know.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Maria. I am from Russia. I'm a high school student, and the question that I wanted to ask is, how does a leader deal with failure? Because I think that's something that I haven't really, that's a topic that wasn't really discussed, but I think it's one of the most important topics, because I believe that the way that a person handles failure is what makes him a leader, to be quite honest. So thank you.
Excellent question. And it's open mic at this point. Whoever feels called to answer can pick up a mic and respond. Yeah. Thank you, Melissa.
Say thank you. Actually, I think that's really the first thing. Honestly, failure is your teacher. I think if we can face those things, head on, actually, it's important. I think for me, let me just maybe explain. Maybe if I think of like one thing that I kind of failed at, I would say. When I first started out working on that City of Good strategy, I had such a strong belief about what that was going to be, what it was going to look like, all this kind of thing too. It was just all exploding in my brain, right? And because I'm like very high energy and want to go kind of thing.
She is. I can attest to that.
No, but it becomes like annoying and oppressive, if you're a member of my team sometimes, and really, no, I'm just would be super honest, right? I talk about self-awareness. You got to know yourself, with all these things too. So if you lose awareness that you are negatively impacting other people, all in the name of something good, right? Actually, you are failing. And I had to confront that actually, too, with my team, and what it meant. And fortunately, I really want to listen. I do sincerely want to listen, because I really I care a lot about people. All my top strengths are all like actually thinking strengths. Actually, they're not relational strengths, but I care about people, which is why even if I didn't get it, I have to sit there and I have to listen and try and understand like what's going wrong, And this is where I say, just if you are egocentric, if it's about you and looking good and hey, don't talk about me, honestly, you will never build a strong team. Your team will never trust you, and people want to work with leaders who are willing to listen, and who are willing to be corrected, actually, too. And I think that is a very humbling but necessary kind of lesson as a leader. And that's why I say, if you experience failure, pushback, conflict, whatever it is, say thank you, because it's an invitation, to learn and to grow.
It's a great pro tip. So to begin from a place of receiving, staying open, and reflecting the self-work that all of us need to do to be better leaders. Thank you, Melissa.
Can I add something?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. That's very good questions. So I could add something more. So I mean that's just another angle of learning from the failure. So I think the good thing of the leaders and from the question itself that whether from the failures the leader they do how they deal with that, right? So the thing is that we need to remember all the leaders they experience the failures, but the thing is they learn from the failures. That's the thing. So if you experience a failure right now, don't be disappointed. But instead, because those leaders, the great leader, also experience those things. So the point to remember is that learn from that failure to be lessons. And then I think the thing is that learn from that, and then you are not fail and then down, but then learn from that and then up. And another thing is that because you are young, but if your age, you become aging further and further. So the good thing is that you need to have good health. We have our doctor here. So the good thing is that you need to have good health. I have some friends when they experience failures, but then in the situations that their health not so good, so it's hard for them to fight against failures. Recently, I got a staff that she submitted a resign letter. Letter for resign, and then I asked. So indeed, the problem is not about the family problem, her family problem. Indeed, it's not about her knowledge, not about anything. But the thing is about her health. Because she did not have that much good health. In Cambodia, we say God mean by ha cà phê hayចឹងណាឬទៅគាត់អត់បាន care សុខភាពបានល្អឯង not that maybe she's too young during her study at university, she did not take care that much. So because of not that good health, she feel nervous. Even just she travel along the street when she heard the beep, this and that, she feel shocked. So at the end, because of her health, that she could not have that a kind of good health. So then she faced the difficulty in order just to work as a normal staff. Yeah. So remember this very good point of all. In order to have, to deal with everything, we need to have good health. When we have good physical health and mental health, failure comes, and then we have
the resiliency to bounce back, right? I think that's very important.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to create more space for questions, if you don't mind. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, thank you. Please introduce yourself, and then you can begin to line up as well, so that we know how many questions are coming. All right, please introduce yourself, your name.
My name is Sok Heng, and I'm from GIZ Cambodia. My question may be on behalf of the SME as well, in terms of private sector development too. So I believe that in the world is faced a lot of challenge and meet a lot of uncertainties. COVID-19 is one of the examples. So as a business leader, do you have any key recommendation how to stay resilient to face with these uncertainties in the future as well? Thank you.
Thank you. Richard, I'm going to invite you to kick off since...
That was such a good question. Also a very tough question to answer. I think for SME and then business sector, private sector in general, what we have to realize is that we have to be agile. And I think that is the big lesson I've learned during the COVID period, is that we have to be ready to pivot, to change our strategy at a moment's notice. There are a lot of us here in this room, if we do business, we were taught to do 5-year projections, 10-year projections. We asked to do strategy that is going to be 3 or 5 or 10 years in the future. And sometimes we are too stubborn to admit that the strategy that we put in place is not the right one facing the current economic situation. And especially in today's macroeconomy, we are facing a lot of issues that we have to be aware of. So we have to be agile, we have to be quick, and we have to change fast. And by fast, I mean sometimes decisions have to be changed days over days or weeks over weeks. We cannot stick and fall in love with the plan, with the business plan that we spend 2 months writing, and then we too afraid to change it, because then we might have to do under the business plan. We might have to change things as long as we can survive. And I think the big lesson I learned during COVID is survival. You have to make sure your company is resilient, and building a survival plan is key. I can tell you from my experience with my own business is that we actually develop a plan of saying, okay, what happened if the country shut down again? What happened if the country shut down for 6 months, for 12 months? And we developed actually those plans, how to deal with it. What we didn't foresee before COVID, and this is actually in the global business scene, what company, especially startup company, what they didn't foresee is the ability to actually generate profit and be self-sustained. A lot of startup company actually build on the foundation of, I'm going to raise more money, and then when I'm almost running out, I'm going to raise even more, and then continue on that cycle, because people was infatuated with higher and higher valuation without actually focusing on sustainability. You know, I was actually falling to that trap before too, until COVID hit, and now we have to realize, okay, what can we do? What happened if our revenue hits 0 for 6 months, for 12 months? How do we go around it? And I think that is the mindset that I would encourage all SME to start to think about, how to be lean with your operation. It's not about the nice office, it's not about the pool table, it's not about the fancy party, it's about self-sustainable, and develop that plan again and again and again. And every week, relook at that strategy and see if there's anything needs to be changed.
Those are great points. So stay adaptable, have that strategic foresight to think about possible alternative scenarios. Yes, Sri.
I think it's very similar, but I would like to add a bit about being a future-proof or building future-proof strategy. So to me, regarding to business, I think it's very similar mindset is to look at the system itself. Everything is interconnected, and one course is coming from another. So look at the mega trends. What are the things that are happening around us, around the world, and using scenario-based and risk assessment. So look at the risk, and risk, don't look it as only bad things. So see it as an opportunity as well. So risk come as something that really causes trouble to us, but there's side to it. So I think this kind of mindset, from looking at things from a systematic point of view, and drill down to what are the impacts on our business, and what are the things that we can do in advance in order to navigate through these changes, because this is very important. As a leader, you need to be very visionary at the same time, but try to navigate through what is coming or up next to us. Yeah.
Excellent. So the adaptive and generative orientation that we spoke about yesterday, and the futures trend that all of you engaged in, right? Mel, were you going to add something?
Just one more thing, which is that, you know, we talk about, and it's definitely important to figure out how do you have a plan, right? I mean, whether it's at a company level or whether it's at a city level, you know, this sort of resilience or continuity, plan. But actually, the plan is only as good as people are aware of, aligned to the plan, and connected with each other. Because if only one person knows about the plan, then there's really no point. And if everybody has a different idea about what to do about the plan, and there's different levels of commitment to the plan, then it's also not going to work, right? But that's why the whole process, and that's why I love what Brian said earlier too, which is you got to go back, you got to revisit it, you got to connect with it too, because I mean, even rolling this up at a national level or at a city level, that's what Resilient Cities actually does too, is actually figure out at a city level, at a municipal or city level, how are we going to respond to the different urban shocks? Whether it's pandemic preparedness, whether it's floods, whether it's social unrest, whether it's digital outage, whether it's all of these kinds of different things. It's not just having the plan, it's having the people connected and having the people aligned.
Excellent, and I think that touches on this whole concept of how we can align, right, our actions across the very many different actors in the ecosystem to have that shared purpose and the shared vision and the shared alignment of what is it that we're collectively trying to create. With that, new questions. We have time for one final question. Okay, I'm going to invite you to come up so that we can take the two questions together and then have our panelists respond. So go ahead, please begin.
Okay, thank you so much. So my name is Narawat. I'm from a women network called Ladies Serving Group. Yes. So I'm actually really interested on the quote at the backdrop, the one that mentioned about the success of the intervention depend on the interior condition of the intervener. Yes. So when talking about leadership for good, we mainly focus on our role of giving to others for good, but sometimes we forget about ourselves. Which is about the passion, the commitment, as well as the mental health you mentioned and well-being in general. So my question may address to Dr. Locke, who have worked to encourage and integrate health in all policy you mentioned in Singapore, right? It's a very interesting journey. So can you share what are the challenges in advocating or mobilizing people to thinking about well-being and health and make it as a cross-cutting issue in all policy level? Yes, that would be a very good lesson learned for Cambodia as well to start that campaign. And maybe you end or finish with one message that encourage all of us as a current and future leader to take care of ourselves.
We have one more question. Would you like to come up? So Dr. Look, that's for you, so you will respond to that. And then I welcome anyone else who has thoughts on well-being as well.
Good afternoon everyone, my name is Chuan Yu. I'm currently studying hospitality operations and currently doing my internship in Cambodia. So I actually love what Miss Melissa, right? Melissa,
yes.
Sorry, shared about as she cares and what it's like to run as she cares in Singapore. But I'm more concerned about how can we bring the values from as she cares into Cambodia or in fact other countries. She shared about how we should all care unreasonably and to defend and protect the underprivileged and those who are not as privileged as us. So my question in general would be, how and what qualities should individuals have to really encompass to care unreasonably for others so we can build a better society, not just for me but for everyone around us, to really make a positive impact in our environment. Thank you.
Amazing. Care unreasonably. Okay, that's an interesting one. So, Dr. Look, I'm going to invite you to speak first.
I'll start. Yeah. So we have always recognized that mental well-being, mental health is a major issue, especially in high-stress environments. Singapore is highly stressful, tourism and all that. And I'm hearing it yesterday, right? During some of the skits, the theatre, the movies. Failing exams, can't do well, disappoint my parents, all this kind of stress is actually increasing, and I think the digital media, social media, all this doesn't help, right? And us being stuck on our phones and our social media worlds. So in the midst of COVID, we created something called mindline.sg. You can click in and see mindline.sg, which then makes mindline, a line to your mind, like line to your mind. Yeah, mindline.sg, which then makes it accessible. Where people, we call it a 3 a.m., 4 a.m. friend. At 3 a.m. you have no friend you can call, go into there, there's a chat board, chit-chat with the chat board, and then it leads you to do some exercises, and finally it's about putting self-assessment, self-management into the hands of everyone, right? So number one, deal with the unawareness and also the fear of talking about it, bring it out there and let people know about it. It could be campaigns, and you're right, we should do campaigns on this. In Singapore, we have to do a big campaigns to reduce the stigma of admitting that so it's okay to say you're not okay. Someone actually said it yesterday. Yeah, so that's a campaign. It's a very, very big campaign. It's okay not to be okay. So we can talk about it. And then we start training. So we talk about volunteers, and actually SG Cares is probably a question that Melissa was going to answer. It's what we want to train at population level. Remember my triangle that all the mass of people, you can train them in basic mental health, first aid skills, where they can peer-to-peer notice early warning signs of their neighbors, of their friends, their classmates. There's something you can do Don't just turn a blind eye. So in a community, if you walk past someone who's mumbling to himself, talking to himself, usually in the past you just walk far away, right? Because you're afraid, whether this guy will get turned violent, maybe he'll scold me or something. But learn what to do, what you can do about it. Within the community, are there people you can also refer to, And so we want to weave that together at the community level. In a sense, that it's also SG Cares because it is building strong communities that actually could look after themselves. But you need skills, and then we need to teach these skills, and then we can actually spread these skills like dandelions, right? So we're back to dandelions again. So I hope that answers your question, but check out mindline.sg. It's an initiative by MOHT. Yeah.
So feel free to also reach out to Dr. Lok later on during lunch, so you have a chance to really understand how do you apply health in every policy so that we can live better as a community. And speaking of living better, I think it's amazing, isn't it, this question, how do you spread this dandelion or city of good from Singapore to Cambodia, and what values do we want to nurture?
First of all, let me say that it's not for Singapore to spread anything to any other country. So I don't want to, I think one of my friends who used to work for one of our Singapore International Foundation told me that, we need to change our mindset, that for Singapore to not just be best in the world, so we're only thinking about we're so good, number one this, number one that, whatever kind of thing, but actually, what's the purpose of it? Actually, what's the purpose of it, right? So the purpose of being, having a good company or a big this or a fast that or whatever it is, right, is so that you can serve, right? So it's not about necessarily just being best in the world, but how could we be best for the world? And even if we want to be best for the world, it's not to tell other people, that be like me. It's not actually. In fact, if anything, Cambodia cares. Cambodia already does care. I think you naturally have a much more caring and gracious spirit, frankly, than us. And so it's not to be more like Singapore in that sense. Be less like us in that sense. We're trying to be more like you, in fact. So I think maybe that's the first point. But from a more tactical standpoint, meaning like how do you roll out like a way to build social movements and to build a kind of cultural change, I think first of all is you got to tell stories that are true about you, true about Cambodia, and so for us, one of the first things that we did was we started making short films, and they're not huge budget, we got filmmakers to also come in to support, and we raise some money to support them and things like that, so we can support the arts and creativity and so forth. But what they did was they looked into our own history, and they tried to find leaders and incredible human beings, that were the ones who looked out for the first people who had HIV/AIDS in the 80s, or people who were opening up their homes to house the homeless, or people who were trying to start up sports for underprivileged. They were looking at all these different sort of like giving heroes, and we said, look, we don't have to always say, oh, it's Mother Teresa, or it's Gandhi, or it's somebody in the UK or US or whatever it is. Let's try and find our own people in Singapore, that we can tell stories about. So the first is really find your own voice for your own country and tell those stories. Then the second one is help shrink the change. Make the specific thing that you want people to do more of very simple. Is it to just greet your neighbor? My taxi driver on the way to the airport was telling me how he loves, the UK because everybody always says hello to him when he goes for his morning walk, kind of thing. And maybe it's something as simple as that people are kind and thoughtful, that they look out and they just say hello, they just wish each other, kind of like, well, shrink the change. Find the one habit, that everybody can do every day, or at least, that somebody can do pretty regularly, once a week or whatever it happens to be, that actually expresses, that care or whatever it is for your country and everything too. Then the third is really spread it through content, through your digital platforms. That's also important too, right? Why is social media all this rubbish? Or half the time it's just rubbish, right? Why you got mental health problem? You're like, hey, but my life is not as nice as hers, Why are you not like that? Right? So much dissatisfaction, right? But how put those good messages, inspiring and true messages, onto social media. And we did something which was called giving.sg, which I think really did begin to help because it inventorized all the different causes in Singapore, from arts, elderly, humanitarian issues, disability, mental health, whatever. All those things were on there. All the different organizations were on there, and then you could donate, you could volunteer, or you could fundraise. And learn more about any one of those different causes. It took us about 2 years to kind of just pull all that, everything together, get it going, get it up. But this is a very digital society too. You all are really mobile first in a lot of ways. Actually, all of these things you can do faster, and you can do better, I'm sure, than us too.
Beautiful. And in many ways, it kind of also sums up what we did yesterday. Discover the best of Cambodia. All right. Design initiatives to bring people together, all of these things that you've identified. And then the delivery, which is the platform and the bringing together of resources to be able to amplify as well. Wonderful. With that, I'm going to now invite our panelists as some closing inspiration and words, right? Since we have many young people in the room, your hopes and dreams for young people and how they can take us forward to Cambodia 2050. Whoever is ready to begin can kick it off, and then we'll call it a day. So the key question is, what are your hopes for Cambodian youths to take us into 2050? Yeah. So someone said earlier, right, health and well-being, that could be the hope that you leave behind as a seed. Similarly, yes. Richard.
I mean, this is actually just facts. Is that young people will lead the world. And just naturally, you guys are going to get older and you're going to be in senior positions.
All that's left to take us forward.
So be ready for that. But my advice to all of you is that you don't have to emulate one style of leadership. Find your own style, find your own tone, find your own voice. The way you lead can be different. The way you lead can be revolutionary. Find that within yourself and be okay with it. If you are a soft-spoken leader, that's okay. If you loud and you're very animated, that's okay. Find your own style, be okay with it, and as long as you're making impact, positive impact around you, that's a good way to go, no matter how small or how big it is.
Thank you.
Very simple. Lead with love and humility, and use your power to serve.
Beautiful.
Thank you. So from me is that the thing is about take care of the health, yes. And I will remind one thing, it's about the habit, especially for our young generations. Good habits, start from good habits, and especially if you can search for the 7 good habits. That would be very good. So start from your habit today, and then it minds your future. I do hope that we will, our country, Cambodia, we have good leaders, more leaders, all other leaders, and especially women leaders.
Women leaders. Beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I believe one thing is everyone is the leaders. Either they lead themselves, their family, or whatever it is. But if only I have one request, is to work together. Because there's a lot of leaders that try to be alone, side low, and don't join force to make a bigger and better impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was very touched even as I read through what was done yesterday, and I want to say that I believe together, right, our whole room together can create a caring, a hopeful and abundant future for Cambodia. I think we don't look at the lack of the past or the present, but it's a caring, we are caring even at heart, right? Hopeful, there's a lot of hope that we must keep that vision in front of us. Don't lose it, right? And it's abundant, right? It's not a lack. It's not a lose-lose. It's not a win-lose. It's actually a win-win, maybe win-win-win-win-win, because all can win, and there's actually a world of abundance and a future ahead.